Attention all pharmacy industry professionals. This isn't your grandfather's podcast. This is...
What the hell are you talking about? Our grandfathers never even listened to podcasts. The internet wasn't even around.
Shut your pie hole. My grandfather loves podcasts, and so does my maca.
Your what?
This is the RX Rated Podcast, part of the Pharmacy Podcast Network.
Did you say maca?
Put the fidget spinners away. Punch in the coordinates for the jump to light speed. And do or do not. There is no try.
What kind of asshat introduction is this?
The podcast dedicated to all the pharmacy professionals in this crazy sector of healthcare.
What was that?
The RX Rated Podcast.
Dude, seriously? You already said that 3 other times. This is bullshit.
Welcome to the RX Rated Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Jeffrey Winger. And with me, as always, is my esteemed colleague, Dr. Robinson. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm pretty good. You know, anytime we get to do our podcast, I love it because, you know, in pharmacy, you always have to be professional. But this is the podcast where we get to be unprofessional. We get to cuss. We drink.
Everything.
We smoke cigars during the show.
Oh, yeah, I got a Padron right now. But yeah, you get to say all the things that are running through your head at work that you just can't say out loud.
I always thought that it'd be cool if one day we did a podcast where it's like, we'll just take 2 people, like every episode, there's like one technician and one pharmacist on there. And that way we just have like a round table.
That's a good idea. And then when we hit the big time, we can travel the country and do live shows and people could ask us questions.
You'll probably have to show your proof of COVID vaccine. I saw concerts are thinking like you have to show proof that you've had the COVID vaccine before you can come into venues.
Jesus, it's like World War II Germany. Show me your papers. God damn. So in the previous episode, I talked about my firing from a prominent competitor of CVS, and I have some updating news just for the listeners that want to live vicariously through me and are grateful they haven't been fired yet, but want to hear my sob story. I can read this. So the Board of Pharmacy reached out to me, and they're investigating what happened. Still, I was fired in mid-September. So they wanted in writing what I had spoken to them about over the phone. So this is a serious investigation, apparently. So I'll read it. It's just 4 paragraphs. I'll read it real quick. I said to them, here is exactly what happened. This company's computer system has a glitch that allows the same prescription to be filled mere days after it was already filled. For some reason, the insurance would not reject it as a refill too soon. And I called around at every store in the area and I spoke to pharmacists, and they all said that it occurred at their locations as well, regularly. They also attested to the fact that they did not consider this to be an error. My partner at the time, the pharmacy manager, wrote me up several times for whenever this happened, if I didn't catch the duplicate fill before it left the pharmacy and ended up filling the prescription again way too early. But I would regularly catch his duplicate fills, but never wrote him up because I would always catch them before they left the pharmacy. For some reason, he curiously never seemed able to afford me the same courtesy. So one day I caught a prescription for the same patient, same drug, same prescription number that he filled twice in a single day. Now, the patient was there to pick it up, and I knew that once I resolved the duplicate fill and sold it to the patient, that the evidence of the duplicate fill would be erased. So I took a pic of the 2 leaflets that had his initials on them in an effort to show it to him. And, it was the only way I knew how to present him the evidence of the fact that he was just as guilty of this error as I was, if not more so. I just never wrote him up. I caught him all the time. In any case, I planned on showing it to him the next time we overlapped, but before I had the opportunity, I had accidentally posted the pic to Facebook. My girlfriend's eldest daughter had sent me a humorous pic that I wanted to share. I thought it was funny, and I must have inadvertently thumbed the 2 adjacent pics in my iPhoto library at once without realizing it. So he noticed this since he followed me on Facebook, and I deleted it immediately. No one else made any mention of it, and it was up so briefly I figured no one else saw it. This was a one-time thing, and I never did anything remotely like that ever again and never will. I am fully aware of the egregious nature of violating HIPAA and took my firing with a deep level of understanding since I know how gross an error this was on my behalf. It was a careless and embarrassing mistake on my part, and I am determined it will never happen again. And then they asked about some of the things that I had told my employer about my partner because he was under investigation for verbally, physically assaulting the techs. And one of the things they wanted to know was about the C2s being left out. And I said, as far as C2s being left out, there was one time I saw a hydrocodone bottle left out, which my partner admitted to in a text, which I showed our supervisor. There was also an immediate release oxycodone bottle. They're real tiny, and it was under our workstation. I saw it one morning, so it was easily not noticeable. So I forgave him for that. He just didn't see it. It rolled under the workstation. They're real tiny bottles. I also came in one morning and the C2 safe was left open. I texted to him about it, and he responded, sorry. I myself had never done anything resembling that. I am unaware of any corrective action that was taken to prevent this sort of thing from happening again. My former lead technician continues to be hassled and threatened to be written up for minute grievances, despite being a veteran employee of 45 years at this company. I told them that there are some managers in the store that can attest to the fact that the pharmacy manager is constantly trying to blame her for everything that goes wrong. The company preaches against verbal assault, physical assault, and retribution, but not in her case, apparently. And that's how I ended it. So I emailed the lady and said, I'm not going to get in trouble, am I? She said, well, it's an investigation. I'll show this to them, and they decide if you're going to get suspended or have your license suspended or whatever since you violated HIPAA. He was a bad person, in my opinion, hypocritical, dishonest. The list goes on. He's got every bad moral character of a person you could think of, and I had enough of it. I put up with it for a long time. I felt bad for our tech. She's a 60-something-year-old woman, very frail. He was being very mean and rude, and like I said, grabbing her. I couldn't take it anymore. Something had to be done, and in the process, I ended up shooting myself in the foot. But that's fine.
This is like made for TV drama.
Oh yeah, this could be a great episode. Great episode of Vials.
So the board called you back. How many times has the board called you?
They called me once, and then they emailed me wanting this written statement.
I kind of thought the boards of pharmacy was just this made up thing and nobody actually works there because nothing changes at retail. I just thought it was like an office that nobody actually shows up to. It's just the board of pharmacy. Here's our location just for legal purposes. So people actually do work at the board of pharmacy.
I'm half thinking if she reaches out to me a third time, I'm going to say, hey, is any chance I can get a job out there with you guys? So what do you think? Do you think I'm potentially going to get in trouble?
I don't think that it kind of just depends. All that was in the image. I don't know. I mean, I've noticed people who violated HIPAA, and it was always a final written warning. It was never just you're gone. What you did doesn't sound that egregious. It sounds like a mistake, not like I could see if you purposely was like, yeah, I'm going to violate HIPAA with the intention.
Exactly. It was an accident. It was completely inadvertent.
But since that should just technically be a final written warning, especially since probably like no actions is going to be taken against the company. Like it's not like whoever's information is out there saw it and was like,
exactly,
I'm going to sue this company. So I personally think that they're probably like, well, this isn't it was an accident. It was deserving of a probably final and not to be just fired. That's probably why they keep trying to figure out like, well, what else? Is this your first attempt, your first time violating HIPAA? But that's my guess. It doesn't make sense.
I guess I was creating waves because I was telling them all these egregious things that he was doing. And maybe they figured rather than deal with him, it's probably just easier to get rid of me. Maybe that's what they thought. When they called me into the office, they were like, do you remember doing this PPL about blah, blah, blah? And at first I'm like, no, I don't. Because they've got you doing so many goddamn PPLs. I don't remember each and every single one of them. But they're like, no, you did it. I'm like, okay, so you asked me and you already knew the answer. So, yeah, what about it? I'm like, well, you violated that, so we got to let you go. Okay.
That's why I worked retail. They're like, you got 80 overdue PPLs. I didn't do those PPLs because, it's like legal things to come back on you.
Now, how did you get away with not doing them? Because they would bitch at us constantly.
They would bitch at me too. I'm like, yeah, I'm busy. We got a lot of stuff going on. I'm gonna try to get them done. There was few. Well, One thing you could do, I don't know, it's a little trick. You could archive them and they would get off your main list. So I would just like archive them to this other folder, and it wouldn't be on like my main folder of things that had to be done. I think it was just a glitch, but I just archived them. So they're like, oh, your name is no longer on the list for overdue PPL. I was like, oh, okay. But really, I just archived. I never did it.
Damn, that's another thing. Corporations now are so adamant about this diversity movement that began, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago, because they're afraid of lawsuits and litigation, and they don't want to get in trouble for not having enough minorities on the staff and blah, blah, blah. And my girlfriend, who's Asian, was the first one to say, well, they got rid of you because you're a white boy and he's a minority. So easier to get rid of the white guy. Then, they need to keep those minority numbers up, or, the feds will come after them. I don't know. I forget what she said, but I'm like, so much for white privilege, I guess. I don't know. Maybe she's got a point. If I had been Hispanic or Chinese, would the same thing have happened? I don't know. It's a good question.
Depends. What's the store looking like?
That's what I really wish. I wish someone would print out for me the metrics since I left so I could see how bad it's gotten there. That would be nice.
Well, yeah. You got to keep us updated to see what the Board of Pharmacy says or what happens from it. I think it's kind of interesting that they keep reaching back out to you.
Yeah, and if any of the listeners want to leave a comment and give me some advice or, share your experience, if anything similar has happened to you, please do.
I mean, I know I've reached out to the Board of Pharmacy about understaffing in pharmacies. I don't know how many times I haven't heard back. You violate HIPAA, they call you, they got a hold of you twice.
Yeah, I know. Speaking of that, there's one aspect of pharmacy I would like to bitch about, and that's the drive-through.
And we're gonna do segments where we're gonna do a top 5 things we hate about pharmacy. Number 5 is drive-through.
Now, I was fortunate because at this particular store, I didn't have a drive-through. It was a training store, but I do have drive-through stores. I've been doing this for almost 20 years, and this was one that stood out. Man came through the drive-through, didn't know his daughter's date of birth. He's trying to pick up her temazepam 7.5 milligram. His wife is on the car phone. She's yelling at him because we don't have the prescription, and she's calling him incompetent. She's calling us incompetent. She's just on the phone yelling. I can hear her. It was transferred to another store at 9 a.m. And this is 9 p.m. that he comes to pick this up. He's in the lane. And the wife knew that it was transferred to a different location. He's at the wrong store. So he's trying to bargain with me. Well, can't you just break some 15 milligrams in half? I'm like, no, that's not the problem. The problem is it's at another location that's 30 minutes away. It's a 24-hour store. You just got to drive over there. Well, how did this happen? This never happened before. I swear to God, if I had a nickel for every time I heard this never happened before. So they won't admit it's their fault. They won't admit that he is at the wrong location or she told him to go to the wrong pharmacy. It's always our fault. Then I have to hear this one. I work in the medical field, blah, 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 blah. What the hell does that have to do with anything? And then he didn't know his daughter's date of birth. That was the funny thing. It's like it took forever just to get to finding the patient. There was a common name, so it was not, there was more than one in the computer. And then he complained about Trump and his copay. It's just like everything is everybody else's fault. Don't you ever get those people in the drive-thru or, look, if I filled it and I had it, I'd sell it to you. There's no reason for me not to sell it to you. I'm not playing games here. Why do you think this is happening? You think I'm pernicious and evil?
For me, people used to always or at least where I'm at, and drive through it. It was always Obamacare's fault.
People are funny. No one wants to take personal responsibility. I like when they come through the drive-thru and the cigarette smoke is billowing through the drive-thru window and the patient's requesting their albuterol prescription. Get those every once in a while.
I was going to say, I have a question for you. What do cookbooks, phone books, landlines, checks, district managers or district leaders, and drive-thru all have in common?
I don't know.
They're not needed.
Good one. Yeah, and some drive-thrus are different than others. Some you can actually open up the window and really, hand them a large bag. Some of them just have drawers, and sometimes that bag doesn't fit in the drawer, and you got to tell them.
Those are the worst, because for most of my pharmacy career, I was always behind the drive-thru that had the big glass, and you're speaking through the phone. So before I started working for the state, the last pharmacy I worked for, they had the window, and It's so intense because usually when people are screaming at you, it's through the phone, the glass. But when it's like right in your face, I'm like, whoa, that conversation just got heated. I don't like those.
Oh, yeah. And of course, nowadays, not only is the radio playing loud and they're on their cell phone and their window is rolled up, but now they got the masks on too. And then they get pissed off at you because you can't understand what they're saying.
Yeah, you could really smell the weed when you got one of those where the whole window actually opens up.
Yeah, first of all, roll the window down, moron. Secondly, turn off the radio. I can't hear over your music. And speak up because you got a mask on. I can't hear you.
The double drive-thrus are the worst because I had a double drive-thru where the second one is kind of like that bank teller one.
Yeah.
And that's usually where the people who don't want to look you in the eyes and want to drop off their too early C2s. Every time they go through there, I'm like, oh, I'm pretty sure it's a C2, and I'm pretty sure it's too early. I'm usually 90% right. And there's one lady, I send the drive-through chute out there, the little container that they put it in. And usually most people will put a script in or a bottle and send it back. So I'm so busy in the pharmacy, I forget about 10 minutes later. I see she's still out there, but she doesn't send the chute back. So I just yell out, just put the script in the chute and send it back. And I get to do some others of 20. Now it's about 25 minutes. I said, ma'am, where's the prescription? What are you doing? You've been in drive-thru for 25 minutes. She's like, well, I'm waiting to get a flu shot. I said, a flu shot through the drive-thru? I was
lane
like,
2?
Yeah. I was like, of all the lanes, it definitely wouldn't be in lane 2. I maybe could understand in lane 1. And she's like, well, they said on the news they were doing a drive-thru, just pull up, but it was at the county fair, at the fairgrounds. They were doing that. I was like, man, this is at the fairgrounds. That's just not you just don't show up to any pharmacy and just show up to drive and they give you a flu shot. I almost thought about just taking the flu shot and putting the needle on it and just sending it out.
What does she think? Is that what she thought? Like, we don't have a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids machine back here where I can go into the thing and administer it to you. Like, how did you think this was going to work?
Maybe she thought I was, I know Stretch Armstrong was white, but maybe she thought I was the black Stretch Armstrong and I was just going to stretch my arm out there. Or I was go gadget or something. There's
a lot of people with a sort of a neutral zone around their heads. Like they're just not thinking. Isn't that scary?
Yeah.
Well, working in Florida is fun because there's such a heavy Hispanic population and a lot of them don't speak English and they positively get angry with you for not speaking their language. Isn't that something?
Yeah. I usually didn't get that. What I got was like, I'd have people that were like Polish or African that had like thick accents. I'm like, what's the name? And they're like,
oh, Jesus.
Blah, blah, blah. I'm like,
Indians.
Anytime I saw somebody that I thought might have had a thick accent or looked for it, I just asked for date of birth.
Yeah, I have trouble with Indians and Haitians and certain groups. You just cannot understand what they're saying.
And they would get mad at me because the name had like 27 consonants with no vowels. I'm like,
and you think they would have sympathy for you? It's like, all right, well, I'm in a foreign country. They don't speak my language. They didn't grow up speaking my language. I have this problem everywhere I go, whether I order pizza or go to the pharmacy. So I'll make it easy on them. No, it never occurs to them to like throw us a bone, and put your driver's license in there so we can spell your name. Like, really, people, think ahead. Have some courtesy and help us out. We're not multilingual back here. It's not like we live in France where we speak Italian and German because we're surrounded by all these fucking countries. No, we speak English here. That's it.
Well, what I hate about the drive-through one is like, one, I'm pretty sure corporate is aware, but you literally, at least the place I work, drive-through never stops. When they do the budget, like eight hours or however long the pharmacy's open, that should just be accounted like a special budget where somebody's just there for drive-through. They need to, or just hire somebody at a lower rate. Just
absolutely,
you do nothing but drive-through. You don't move because they literally, when is you and one tech, they're stuck at drive-through. So that's why I was like, they need to just hire somebody, just the drive-through technician, whether it's just a lower rate. You don't move, you don't do anything, you just stand and drive-through.
I couldn't agree more.
And then it's like, what I hate about drive-through, it just adds to like, there's no patient accountability. Like, oh, you don't want to, do your own refills. Okay, so we do auto refill. Oh, you can't remember to call your doctor or call us to get a new prescription. We give you an emergency supply. Oh, you don't want to get up and come get it. Oh, it's delivery. Like the drive-through is like one of those things that just adds to that like they don't want to take responsibility for any of their. You can't really walk inside, really. I get most. There are some people who can't get out the car, and the older people that they need it. But like I would say, probably like 40% of people who use drive-through could have brought their ass inside.
Or yeah, when they go through the drive-through, they'll ask you to go to the floor to get them something like incontinence pads, and then you come back with the wrong item, and they get pissed off, and then they come into the pharmacy and purchase it at the pharmacy counter, but they're calling you an idiot because you didn't know which freaking incontinence pads they wanted. It's like, I'm not a mind reader. God damn.
Yeah,
cut us some slack.
I felt like, especially during the pandemic, people were so bored and so tired of being in the house. They were just coming through the drive-through because they were bored. Just like I literally had people like would drive through like 5 times a day just for random shit. Like, oh, can I get some toothpicks?
Jesus.
Oh, can I get your the highest grade cat food? Can I get some? I had one guy that would come through. He wanted 1% milk, whole milk. You had to get one of each. And so I was like, you're just fucking with us, right?
Oh,
like you had to grab that, and then the people at the front would bring it back. I'm like, what type of specific stuff is this? You need 1% and 2%?
And that's a metric that the company measures, so they know how busy the drive-thru is. They should afford us some extra help just to run that damn thing. Because you'll have people calling you from the drive-thru complaining about why the line is so long and backed up. Like, we're busy. Like, what do you think? Come inside if you don't want to wait.
I bet you they don't call Popeyes when they're waiting for that chicken sandwich. Why is it taking so long to make a sandwich? They just sat there and waited 45 minutes to an hour for that chicken sandwich when it first came out.
Yeah, super patient. We had one pharmacy where the buzzer button would get stuck and you'd have to walk outside and unstick it. That was fun because the phone would just keep ringing and ringing and ringing. There's nobody there. It's just stuck. It's like, Jesus Christ, can we get the company to fix this?
What I used to hate, my technicians would be slick and turn off the sound to the drive-thru. They would dim it down so you would never hear it. So the customers would call, I want to speak to the manager. I've been in drive-thru. Nobody showed up. I'm like, oh, it never rang. And I could tell somebody turned it down. So I had to make it put a black mark, like, do not move the volume below this.
Can you do that at CVS? Because my girlfriend works for CVS, and she's always complaining about how all day long it's just drive-through lane 1, drive-through lane 2, call line 1. And that woman on the thing is just constantly bitching at her all day long.
I think if you leave the drive-through phone off, it won't. I don't know.
All these little tricks.
I'm trying to remember. I think it still goes off. You got to leave the window. It's something with the window. Because once you move the window all the way back and close it, then it goes off. But that, the problem is like they need to really switch the kind of greeting that drive-through has. It's like, oh, somebody will be with you momentarily. It needs to be like, sorry, they're busy as fuck and understaffed. They'll get to you.
Get off your fat ass and go inside.
Yeah, that greeting needs to be more realistic.
Or maybe have a different greeting for different areas that you're in. Like have a real sassy urban one for the urban areas. Like, come on now. They're busy. Get your butt inside and get your own shit. But I don't want the audience to think it's all negativity. There's a couple of positive things about drive-thru that I did want to bring up. Number one is, at this training store I was at, we had no view of the outside. We had no windows, no nothing. So it was kind of gloomy to just be in a room with. So when I'm in a pharmacy that has a drive, it's nice to see the weather and look outside, maybe stick your head out, get a little whiff of fresh air or something. That was nice to just be able to see the outside world. That's how cooped up you get in 12-hour shifts. The other thing is I always loved it when people would bring their dogs and you'd have dog treats and you would give it to the dog. That was the highlight of the day. Anytime a doggy came through the drive-thru. Can you think of any single positive thing other than that?
No, I really hate the drive-thru. And it's like, it's not really the drive-thru because the drive-thru, I've worked the drive-thru on days, rare days, but days where you have everything done, or let's say we had a couple call-offs, so like the next couple of days I would use the hours and just be overstaffed and everything's done. And when you have everything ready, the drive-thru really isn't that bad, except for when you have that one person that expects it to be ready or drops off, like they're picking up prescriptions and none of them's through insurance and they got 4 kids with 4 different baby daddies and you got to put all that shit in and insurance in. They got different insurance cards. Like, come on, you need to come inside for that.
This happens once in a while. Let me ask you because I know this has probably happened to you. It's 8:55 p.m. You close at 9. You're starting to put the sign up. Someone drops off 6 prescriptions, and they're pissed off that you're not going to be able to get it done before 9 o'clock. What would you tell them?
Well, it kind of just depends on what it was. I had one customer that would continuously show up 5 minutes before we close. And I finally told them, I was like, look, this is the last time I'm going to do this. But every day this month, you show up 5 minutes before close, and then you want to switch it from 90 days to 30 days. You want a specific brand. If you don't come in at least 20 minutes before, then, I'm not going to do this again. But most time I said, man, we're closed, and I'm helping some other people, even though there's nobody else in the pharmacy. And they'd be like, okay.
Again, like, where's the consideration? You're coming to a place that I've been working at for 11 hours and 55 minutes. I'm dying to get out of here. I'm exhausted. I'm constipated. I'm malnourished and dehydrated. I want to go home. Now you're dropping off. Did you seriously think I was going to fill these 6 prescriptions in the next 5 goddamn minutes? What do you think this is? Oh, you should be the one to say, all right, listen, I'll be back tomorrow morning. What's good? 11, 12? That should be coming out of your mouth. But the indignant nature of these people, like, what do you mean? What did you think I was going to do? Stay here till 10 o'clock just for you? Like, what is going on? There's just, everybody's so self-centered. Is that the right way to phrase it? Or what's going on with our society and our culture?
I don't know. I think a lot of it, like, when you look at the commercials, you ever seen those pharmacy commercials? There's like one person in line. There's like, they make everything seem like, oh, okay, that's how it should be. I just pull up, I grab my stuff, and, the person drops off a script, and in the commercial, 4 seconds later, the pharmacist is handing the prescription back. And I think that people really think that's how it.
Yeah, if you're 25 years old and you're dropping off your citalopram, and I could understand. But when you're 65 and you've been around the block a few times, you should know by now. There's no pharmacy in the world that's going to be able to fill 6 prescriptions in 5 minutes. That's not going to happen. Like, I love these people that are like 72 years old and they have no idea how this works. I'm like, come on, you've been coming here consistently for 25 years. How do you not know by now how this works? Are they just not thinking about it? Or are they being abstinent? Is there some sort of defiance?
I hate when people come through the drive-thru and like they're complaining because I have to go, let's say they want 30 instead of 90 or 90 instead of 30. I have to update the insurance. And they're complaining because I have to take time to do that. And then when I come for them, it's like, okay, the total is $11.37. Then I got to wait 5 fucking minutes for them to find their form of payment. Like, you should have been looking for this shit when I was fixing it. Like,
yeah, exactly. That's another thing. Like, have your game face on when you come to the pharmacy. Like, when you're standing in line and it's a long line, when it's your turn, have your card in your hand. Have your shit ready to go. If you have a coupon, you should have handed that off to us when you dropped off the goddamn prescription. Do you not realize now that I got to go into the computer, redo this? It's going to take time. Like, it's like starting from scratch. This coupon is not something I can just plug into the register, in other words. I got to go into this system, add it, refill the prescription all over again. You're 69 years old. How do you not know this?
Yeah, and stop bringing checks through the drive-thru.
Well, that's all I have on drive-thru. Anything else to add before we move on?
No, except for the only reason why drive-thru is 5 and not higher. I know some people probably rank it number 1, but there are some people who are handicapped or older, so I can understand the need for drive-thru because, walking in would be an inconvenience. But that's the only reason why it's not higher. People wonder why it's drive-thru only number 5.
All right, so before we go, just want to thank you guys for listening. We'd like to encourage you, the listener, to provide us with feedback, positive, negative, doesn't matter. We're big boys with thick skin. We can take it, unlike some Fabergé eggs out there. So tell us what you think of the show. Feel free to participate. And as always, just remember, every prescription you fill is one more closer to retirement. And Dr. Robinson has T-shirts for sale. One of them has that logo on it. Tell them a little bit more about what you got.
Yeah, so we got a couple funny T-shirts. That's one of them. I got a couple other ones on there whereas you ever see where like Amazon gives those 5 stars, where there's one where it's like 1 star and it says retail pharmacy, not very recommended.
Yeah.
So I'll put the link in the comment section so you can check out some of our other funny shirts. A lot of people have been asking me to put up shirts, so I've just been doing it because I get a lot of requests. People like to wear funny pharmacy shirts. So,
all right, folks, until next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hello, it's your drug dealer. I thought I'd call in case you needed anything at all. You know, you can always call me just to talk, but I mostly want to sell you drugs. Drug dealer.